Ladies and gentlemen, welcome into Jackrabbit Illustrated. Per protocol, we're a couple minutes late, and that's why you love us. But Jackrabbit Illustrated, as always, we are on the Jackrabbit Illustrated Facebook, Twitter, as well as the FFN Network YouTube. Thank you all for joining us live today. We really appreciate it. As always, our title sponsor is Kubota Dealers of South Dakota with 10 locations across the great state of South Dakota. There's always a dealer near you. To get into some orange equipment today, I was just talking with my neighbor about that the other night here and about how I got to get myself one of the BX series like Chad and Matt have. Those things are beauties. Get a snowblower on that bad boy to take care of this country snow that I deal with compared to living in town. It's a whole different animal. Kubota Dealers South Dakota, they've got parts, sales, and service. They've got all the equipment you may need for your acreage, ranch, or home. Get into some orange equipment today and get some of the most reliable stuff on the market. But as always, we are the B team, myself, Brendan, or Big Thumpy, as it's been changed to recently, and then Ben and Chad. And we have the honor of being joined from FCS Nation Radio, everybody's favorite, every Jackrabbit fan's favorite media member, Stone Labanowitz, the man, the myth, the legend himself. He's joining us here to break down the Salukis with us tonight here a little bit, and probably end up talking a little bit about Alex's lemonade stand and everything else. Thank you so much for joining us, Stone. We are stoked to have you here, man.
No, the pleasure is mine, guys. I enjoy watching you guys every week. I'm going to be serious this is the intro. I'm going to be serious here. I appreciate what you guys do. I watch you guys every week. I think you guys are the most boisterous, most proud and deservingly so fan base in all of the FCS. I'm just glad I can be a part of your guys' show. Now, you did say we're going to talk about this SIU game. I hope that's the shortest part of what we do, but still willing to get elbow deep in it. So let's do it.
Perfect.
I mean, Youngstown State's a difficult opponent, so
sure.
Gotta get a W somewhere
with needle in him, just right off the bat, man. Jesus, Mary and Joseph.
We were hoping to do a deep dive into SIU struggles this year.
Yeah, I mean, let's go. I mean,
how deep does it have to get? The fourth
get under the hood, dismantle some stuff. Really get at
I don't have that in me. I didn't prepare for it, and I didn't want to.
I don't blame you.
We all still like Nick Baker.
Yeah, we all. Yeah, Brandon Joseph. No, he's not worthy to shine Stone's shoes. Are you kidding me? But no, we no.
We're freaking going right now. 6 minutes. Let's do it. Let's go.
Personally, here, I kind of tuned out on SIU a little bit here after, everybody went down, all the injuries and everything like that, to be honest. And they don't, play us till late in the year. And it was kind of down the tubes for them a little bit here. So, I mean, if you want to break down exactly what happened for those of us who haven't paid attention, just the mass quantity of injuries and how many quarterbacks you've gone through and everything else.
Yeah, I think that I can do. DJ Williams was a touted starter, a kid who had FCS snaps prior, who was mobile, and Nick Hill likes kids who are mobile, and they thought they had it all figured out. Obviously, they never lacked skill players, so there was definitely optimism at the beginning of the season, but broke his hand, ended up going to a backup who had been there for 2-3 seasons. He ended up breaking his tibia, and now you have to throw a 19-year-old into the mix, and I think anytime a team has to throw a 19-year-old into the mix behind center, your expectations for the season go from pointing this way to this way, and you try to find success in places that you can and count last week as a success, right? Something to remember this season with the largest comeback victory in program history. But other than that, I mean, the bright spots are on the defensive side of the ball, and that will just bore people to sleep. So this team's been a mess for right now. They're 3-7, like my Jets and my Dolphins down here. So it's been hard watches every single Saturday. I'll pick spots when I want to tune in. And if I see they're on offense and they're in the red zone, I'm like, okay, I'll see something positive here. So, I mean, I haven't been watching every single second of their games. It's really dependent on the matchup. I think a game that I watched start to finish was North Dakota State. And the next one will be this one. So, I mean, that's about as quick as I can sum it up. No, the defense hasn't been terrible, like whatsoever. Defense is very good, and there are dudes who aren't even seniors who are some of the best interior linebackers and trench warfare men that are going to do damage in the Valley for years to come. The defense not bad at all.
I mean, it's not bad, but they have given up a lot of points to a lot of teams this year. I mean, I think their NDSU game is probably their best performance, only giving up 24 to NDSU, which is saying something. But I mean, then giving Youngstown State 33, Missouri State 38, Illinois State 45, USD 42, SEMA 38. I mean, those are big numbers too. So I guess expand on that a little bit when you say the defense is good. I guess are you talking like individual stars or?
I mean, I think if you were to crack some tape here, you have a kid behind center who's never played a snap, right? You're probably talking about 2-3 times the amount of 3 and outs. So the defense just sits on the field and gets torched and burned for probably 2.5 quarters, kind of once you really stall out and things start to slide. So the defense has been on the field the entire year. I'm not going to sit here and pull Massey stats, but it is ranked, right, the 4th hardest schedule in the country. You have a BYU team who has not lost in the FBS and is going to, or at least thinks they can contend in the FBS playoffs. So, I mean, that's a good loss, and Incarnate Word's a good team.
Your FBS loss is looking a lot better than ours at this point.
Oh, yeah, it definitely is. There's a win. I can get my first win here, not even 10 minutes in. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Our FBS loss is better than your guys.
Yeah, no, when all SIU's quarterbacks going down, we were wondering if they were just like looking through the paperwork to make sure you didn't have any eligibility left, didn't you?
Yeah, but I did. I did have a year of eligibility. And I 100%
So you can just go out there right now?
I don't know technically how it works. I haven't asked the question. The mood hasn't been that light as far as the text. And I still talk to Hill. Honestly, every week, every other week, we're just talking ball. And a lot of it's been about Jake Curry, their young quarterback. But the mood hasn't been light enough for me to be like, hey, man, like, what's going on? Like, we got to go to Brookings here in a few weeks. Like, I mean, let me at least try out.
That would have been amazing if you would have pulled that off and just showed up suited up in Brookings.
Jogged out of the locker room.
Just put the wrong number on and have
wait, is that Stone?
I would have done it, and I would have audibled quarterback power very first play and run right at 32's chest and put his ass in the dirt. I would have done it right off the rip, like no hesitation.
And that's, ladies and gentlemen, is how you know he's not playing this weekend, because you don't see that before the game otherwise.
So Dustin Helton's daring you to do it here. So
talk about this Jake Curry.
There's still time.
Bit. I mean, he had 4 pretty rough games and then finally a good one against YSU. Do you think he's kind of figuring it out, or?
I don't know if he's figured it out, but he's grown up. I mean, that's really all you can ask for. I talked about earlier, kind of the outlook, your goals for the season from pointing here to here. I think when you do go the opposite way, the one thing you're looking for is, do we have a quarterback of the future? I think it's a conversation you guys have every single week. Think we have a quarterback of the future. You're almost positive you have a quarterback of the future, but there's still somewhat of a question mark, right? There's still answers you need, and there's still a lot that you haven't seen. So I think for Southern and Nick Hill and the rest of that staff, do we have our quarterback secure? Very rare to even have an opportunity to see a 19-year-old take snaps, and not take snaps, but take snaps for half of the season. So he grew up last week in a game like that. That's what it takes, regardless. Youngstown State, I mean, we can joke all we want. It is a very annoying team, especially when you're on the road. I think it's one of the worst places to play in the FCS, or one of the worst places that I've played, just right behind Brookings, South Dakota. But for Youngstown, it's a team that always is going to scheme you up well and get annoying. We've seen him sneak some wins this year, but I don't know if he's figured it out, but he's grown up, and that's legitimately all you can ask for a literal child.
Were you able to watch that Youngstown game at all?
Yeah, I was.
I'll say, how impressed are you with Bo Brungard? The kid seems like he's got a bright future.
He does. And it's a kid that fits what they do. And that's what I'll say. And I think he's a kid that I wasn't familiar with coming into all of this. But one thing I do, and I talk about it with Kev all the time on our show, is going through team socials and seeing what coaches have to say. And he's, when spoken about, one of the most highly regarded. And I always kind of note that, because those are players for me to watch on teams where I'm not watching every single weekend from the first quarter to the fourth. So Bo's been one of those kids that now I'm just keeping an eye on every time they do come on the screen.
Well, it's got to be tough for a kid like that. We've seen in the NFL that taking a couple years back seat has really been a key to success at the quarterback position. And I think that's got to be kind of the same thing at the college level.
100%.
Sit and learn.
100%. I mean, I've had the opportunity to do that, and we get really into the weeds here, but I think a backup quarterback is the coolest position in football. For the reason kind of that you just mentioned and your ability to be able to sit back and not feel like, and for Jake, here's what happens. Like, you're really comfortable and your relationship starts to build with Nick Hill because Nick Hill sees you as, I can break it down as a token almost, or like a ticket, right? Like he punched like Nick Hill knows he's good and he's got his quarterback figured out. And Jake Curry's just getting paid scholarship money and going through classes, knowing that he's going to be the starting quarterback at a Division I university. Like that mental is easy to go to sleep with. And 90% of quarterbacks in the FBS, the NFL, the FCS don't have the ability to go to sleep comfortable and happy with where they're at. So I think, yeah, that's absolutely what you take away from it. And you just let that relationship build, get your ass in the weight room, eat right, get bulked up, and go sneak a Jackrabbits team on the road.
Yeah, you said that Brookings is your least favorite place to play. Did I hear that correctly? It's strange because there's a lot of pictures of Brookings in your Instagram.
I mean, there was some decent moments. There's some highlight worthy moments. It is the worst place to play. Here's why. A few reasons.
I just
your guys
dig on you a bit. Love you, Stone.
So your guys is no, I'm dead serious. Your guys is stadium doesn't go as high on the north, the south, the west. I probably have my directions wrong. And
you were right, except for west. Yeah,
it's also east, that north, the south, and the east. Like it's open, and it's obviously cold as dick every time anybody's in there at this time of the year, and the wind just dips in and just tunnels through, and there's nothing to block it. Their majority of stadiums kind of go up a little bit, but Brookings is windy the entire game, and that's annoying. It's already cold, and it's blinding because everywhere you look around in the stadium, there's so many people, and everybody's so pale, and it's just hard sometimes to hit the receiver and make the right reads. So it just finds itself in like the top 3 worst for me personally.
I'm gonna start pulling up my shirt every time the
quarterback gets out there,
blind them.
I have a lot of pale to show, I guess. So.
Is it legal for us to bring giant mirrors into the stadium and then shine the sun back at them?
Definitely not. It's like a laser pointer. I would get you kicked out right away. I'd get the guy in the overalls kicked out with the hobo. The guy in the overalls and the hobo next to him, get them both kicked out of here. They're shining mirrors in my face.
We're both wearing overalls. Just
yeah.
That's what you took away from that? Good.
No.
Good.
Sounds like the rest
Don't be jealous that I got
some
flow.
I am. I'm weak. I'm weak. I can't do it. I got like a week and then I get embarrassed and I got to shave it off. So I am a little bit of jealous. That's why I always.
You're not 40 yet.
Digs.
You got time.
We're gonna make a sign that says "Sign said this was okay," or "Stone said this was okay," and that's gonna be a row of mirrors in the middle of it.
You might get by. It'll confuse people.
I mean, you got to throw around. You got to name drop when you can. So I think that'd get us by. The rest would be like, oh, it's cool.
Yeah, and Justin Sell, your guy's AD, who I love. He's a phenomenal dude, and I love shaking his hand and having a conversation with. If he saw the name and was like, oh, Stone said it's cool, it's advantage to us. Like I'm gonna make sure they stay. So run it by Sell, and you guys be all right.
It's not like there's a lot of Stones out there, so you're pretty unique there.
Yeah, you never really got to play like in an early warm weather game in Brookings, did you? It was always late season that SIU. It's always up in November that you guys play.
Brutal. Cavs like, you want to go to one of these? I'm like, not really. I'm talking about this year, going to one of your guys like this one, and specifically, I'm like, not really. Like, what are we going for? Like, what game are we covering here? It's gonna be like a 28-point spread, and it's gonna be freezing, and I don't want to do that. So I'm not doing it. But yeah, I've never had a chance to play you guys early season, or at least when the sun's out and it's not freezing cold.
It's going to be super nice this weekend, actually. High 53. It's going to be beautiful.
Nice.
It's going to be really nice.
Jim Poppin brings up a good point. That was a springtime game, and it was okay. Right. It was a nighttime game, but I think I wore short sleeves. Like, I think I toughed it out. If it was like 50, it's tough for me.
As long as you don't do the famous thing that everybody seems to do and show how tough they are and come out pre-game with no shirt on, like that's a bad sign.
Absolutely not. The 5'9" kid with shaved head and a half dad bod, like that's not intimidating anybody. We're going to eat these guys alive. Although that is a part of the plan. A lot of the time, it's kind of go out there and act like nothing's going to happen and they won't expect anything.
I think
Get
they
him
call that
under.
sneakily athletic, Stone.
Grit for us white guys. Or like savviness.
I didn't want to put that in there, but yes, sneakily athletic. You're white.
Zach. Oh, you Southern guys. Good Lord. Zach McKinnell,
Yeah.
53 is cold. Oh, brother. I'm tempted
Thanks,
to buy
Zach.
you a ticket to a December semifinal game once and let you live the
Yeah,
life
just
of
come
one
on
of
up.
those.
I appreciate
bad
that,
boys.
Zach. You're probably the only one on here who's going to come to my rescue or take my side there. 53 is like, ooh, got to layer up. It's 53 out tonight.
Our side of the stadium, I'll probably be shoveling down to my t-shirt. I'll be roasting in the sun over there. Yeah.
So one of the things that helps in a cold weather game is a running game. And a fun stat for SIU right now is that DJ Williams is still the leading rusher on the team. How is that possible? I mean, do they just do they not run the ball much, or
What do you mean? What do you mean by fun stat? Why is that a fun stat?
It's fun for us.
It's fun because it's unusual.
You're 10 games in. How has nobody else surpassed him?
I'm going to be honest with you. I think that and I haven't broken down these statistics. Now I have had conversations about their third down success, or what's the antonym for success. And a lot of it, like, they're really bad on third downs. Like, they're the worst they've ever been in third downs. And honestly, Ben, like, that stat would come from either trying to find a drive starter because you're outgunned, right? So taking to the air, it's an incomplete pass, keeping the ball on the ground, finding yourself in a 3rd and 7, then you're throwing the ball and getting off the field. And if you're going to have maybe 70 snaps for a contending team is like average for a game. That's probably above average. So if you're a team that's not contending and down, you rattled off some of the score lines that teams have put up against them, or some of the amount of touchdowns and points that teams have put up against them this season. So when you're out of reach like that, like, those 3 and outs can really stack up. And by the time you go into the locker room and get on the team plane, you were 3 of 14 on third down. And that right there probably is like 8 or 9 rushes. So it makes sense. I mean, if you really want to break down the math, but I just think because this team hasn't been successful really on offense anywhere, of course that run game is going to suffer. But DJ was also a very good runner, and that was a part of what they wanted to do with him. And that's what Hill's always wanted to do, unless, a different situation presented itself. But I mean, you guys saw Javon Williams, and I'm not going to sit here and recall kids from 2, 3, 4, 5 years back, but Javon Williams was that Wildcat back, number 15, that we threw at everybody. We threw at you guys, short yardage. He was Nick Hill's baby. There wasn't a damn thing that he could do wrong, and that's because he fit Hill's style. So, I mean, that stat makes sense. Yeah, funny. No, it sucks.
So you talk about the third down conversions and staying on the field. If SIU were to have success in Brookings and give SDSU a scare, I guess how do you think that happens?
It's a really good question. I don't think it does. I don't think it does happen. And I will say I think the one thing that I was excited to get on with you guys and talk about was how teams game plan for South Dakota State. I think it's perspective you guys probably don't get every single week, right? Because I'm so fresh and
It's true.
Just out of a locker room. And I'll tell you how Coach Hill is going to coach them up this week without even having a conversation with them. Like, there's no recreating the wheel. There's nothing you can do differently that's going to catch a team like this off guard. Like, it is late in the season. This is when a team who's 8-2 and is not ranked number 1 in the country wants to notch another win in the Valley and make sure that they're all primed and ready to go for the playoffs. Like, you're not sneaking anything by them. There's no shot plays that you can put in the scripts. It's cliche and corny to bring up the double passes and the end arounds. Like, that stuff can't happen, and it won't happen. So you legitimately have to spend more time in practice on inside run, on the day 1, day 2, week 1 install, all of the inside zone, all of the gap schemes, like all of the basic things that you've been being preached for year after year after year. That's what's in the game plan against the South Dakota State team, because if we don't punch them in the mouth, we don't stand a chance. I mean, if Chad and Thumpy were blocking a doorway for me, I'm not trying to juke him out. I'm not trying to run around him. I'm going to kick Chad in the nuts and then run as full speed as I can into his chest. And if he falls over and I get through the doorway and I get up and I go again, like, that's what you got here with Southern Illinois and South Dakota State. That's what's always been preached to us in a game like this. Like, if we don't punch them in the mouth in the first drive, we're getting on this plane and no one's saying a damn word. And it just really gets to the basics. So I think if they wanted to contend and compete in this game, mind you, the last 3 times these two teams have met, it's been decided by a touchdown or less, something to take into account. And I think because that's a weird stat and this is a weird matchup, we just talked about Jake Curry for 15 minutes, which nobody will remember the conversation that we had about Jake Curry or what was going on. So like that being as wonky as it is, this could be one of those wonky ones. And you just gotta, to be honest with you, what I'll say is if they want to contend in this game, South Dakota State has to do it themselves. They have the turnovers, right? The fumbles, the muffed punts, like little things like that have to stack up for this to be a 14-10 Southern Illinois lead going into the locker room at halftime. Everybody be like, what's going on? Like, that's the only way that this happens. Mark Gronowski, 2 picks in the first quarter. Other than that, I mean, they're going to win by double digits here. They're just outgunned, and it's an awkward part of the season that you don't want to go to Brookings ever.
Yeah, and I think that, it's easy to look at SIU's record and, the points they've given up to some teams and say, well, geez, they're not going to compete. But like you said, you mentioned the strength of schedule. They've played a nasty schedule. I mean, between the FBS game they played and once they play this game, they'll have played all the best Missouri Valley teams. And so, you do have to be careful of a team that, is lurking, has had a really tough schedule, but could come and strike at any point. Now, losing to Indiana State, barely beating YSU doesn't bode real well either. But I think, like you said, I think SDSU just has to play a clean game, and they probably don't have anything to worry about.
Yeah, and Zach brings up a good point. There were times during the season where there was backup guards playing tackle, and there were third-string centers playing guard. So things have gotten really weird, and they've gotten beaten up by a lot of good teams, 5 straight games against ranked teams. So do be wary of a team who's kind of battle-tested and really has nothing to lose.
Yeah, they're going to throw it all on the line. I just think matchup-wise it's really tough when, you really are coming out of the gates. If, looking at those rushing stats, you're coming out of the gates one-dimensional already, putting a lot on the shoulders of a real young player. Where SDSU wants you to be one-dimensional anyways. That's what they try to do. Shut down the run and make you have to pass. That's the whole setup. Make you march your way down the field. And I think that makes this a tough matchup, even if Southern Illinois is humming along. For any team that likes to be one-dimensional like that, I think it's really hard. So it's kind of a bummer. I was pretty stoked for SIU at the start of this year because, they look primed for success. And the injuries, you hate injuries at any time, but especially when it takes down what could have been a really good season for a team. So that really is a bummer there.
100%. God, I think as I just heard you speak about trying to make this game one-dimensional, and that's what South Dakota State wants to do, where I can find a parallel, and I don't necessarily think I'm reaching here. I came into the games against you guys with the mindset that we weren't as big as you guys are up front. Like, I have to be really clean on third downs, and I have to make throws that I don't even think my own teammates expect me to make. Like, I kind of went into a game like that, and I think you have to just at some point say screw it. And I think nobody better to say screw it than a 19-year-old Jake Curry who has been given the green light from his head coach, Nick Hale. I don't give a damn if you throw 8 picks in this game. How about you throw me 10? I want 10, and I'll buy you a steak dinner, just to ease his mind and make him feel like, all right, I can't get in trouble. I have nothing to lose. I'm going to take this drop and throw this post in there in that window as hard as I possibly can. And if you can catch fire and somebody misses a tackle, like, you can play with that nothing to lose mentality. It works. And if you can get a team like South Dakota State to start thinking about things, then you got them right where you want them. So, I think that's one way to go about it too. If Jay Curry just wants to let it hang and drag on the turf, this could get funky. It ain't going to happen.
So I have a very serious question for you about SIU's stadium. New built stadium. Why is the press box off center from the 50-yard line?
I would know that was a stat. I would have told you right now. If you were to say true or false, the press box is off center from the 50-yard line, I would say that's false. It's completely center. I've
got
never
you.
noticed.
Check this out.
Oddly enough, our east side is modeled after your guys's.
You see the 50-yard line and where that lines up with that press box.
Right.
Why
This
is
isn't
it 15 yards off center? It's a new stadium.
This is simple law of physics here. When you're in that part of the country, I don't know how often you guys frequent Illinois, but the perpendicularity of a press box in an architectural structure like that, it typically is going to sit more to one side, because what happens when it gets cold and that ice gets underneath it, it'll slide a little bit. So it's just kind of got this mechanism that goes back and forth. And it just so sometimes it'll look like that.
Appreciate
That's a perspective. You
do be like
point
that
out
sometimes.
that's a perspective of the photo.
Hardworking man from the South.
That is not a perspective of the photo, Chad. It is definitely off.
I'm just trying to help.
No, that's definitely off.
I didn't take a single math class, Cody Schuling. I didn't take a single math class at Southern Illinois. Not one. Never did a lick of it. Would have cheated if I had to.
Yep, that's
know,
definitely off center.
That one shows it better. It looks weird.
It's really.
I was just trying to help.
Yeah, I just cursed everybody's mind every time they look at that field. They're gonna go, "What? Why?"
There's a reason that it looks like that. I've said that. I can say that confidently. They didn't screw
It's
that up.
future expansion, right?
See, Chad, that was what I was getting at. If you guys didn't cut me off, wasn't also you got to take into account the expansion that's going to come after this team beats after they come home from throttling the Jacks on Saturday, 2 p.m.
Right. Yeah.
We'll talk about expansion in a moment, but if you had to guess what the only posted spread is on this game at this point, what do you think it would be?
I feel like I already would have seen it. Oh, dude.
Well, it's through a Reddit FCS Sportsbook, so it's not an official casino line, but they post lines for FCS games every week.
Yeah, early too, thankfully.
24 and a half.
Fairly close usually.
They got 30.5 right now.
So a touchdown more than my 24 and a half. Okay. All right.
Would you take SIU to cover that?
I would. I would actually. I mean, I might actually take the 30 and a half. And I think Nick Hill knows how to game plan these guys. And I just talked about it being a rough one, right? Just headbutting for 4 quarters straight. And I think, you just saw the Jacks have fun. You saw Wildy and them get loose against the team last week. But this is a Southern Illinois team. We just talked about the 3 games being decided by 7 or more points. And as we creep towards December, you got to get Angel. You got to get Amar. You got to get Big Gus and the Hogs going. So you're going to keep the ball on the ground, and you're just going to outwill and outman a team. So that's probably what they're going in here to do. So give it 30 to 14, 30 to 10, a final scoreline, and I'm cashing that.
I like it. If you look at their result against NDSU, granted that was in Carbondale, but they stayed within 21 points against a very good NDSU team. I would think 30.5 is probably
that's proper. And I
realistic.
think North Dakota State would be the game to compare it to, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, who else has the ability to run the ball the way they do and keep things close to the vest when they decide to do so? And that's a Jacks team, and that's a Bison team. That's a good game to. And that was Jake before he knew what was going on and what his left from his right. So, I think that's the game to go off of here if you're actually considering a 30.5 point spread with the 3-7 Salukis Dogs.
Yeah, I would agree.
Have I been to Culver's? Jim Poppin says, we got a Culver's here. Anything double. I couldn't tell you the name of the order because it's so expensive. I don't know if that's a takeaway that you guys have. It's just expensive. I don't go to it all the time. But anything double, anything super greasy and tots. No cheese curds. I'm lactose. Unless I'm feeling dangerous that night and ready to do damage. I'll get the curds. But other than that,
the price the next day.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm staying home all night, so
you can't touch the custard then either, apparently.
See the custard I do anyway. That's what I'll pay the price for. That's fine. That's fine. The Culver's I'm willing to do it for. Curds, I'm like, what's wrong? I had too many cheese curds. But if it's ice cream, it's whatever. It's no big deal.
People can understand. Yeah, that's an amazing ice cream. In fact, it was custard. It was so good.
Does that count as our ad read for Culver's?
Sure. Why not? Yeah.
Where we call them expensive. I love that.
Culver's is our show sponsor for Jackrabbit for the B team. What a coincidence.
See, Jim Poppin knows. Jim Poppin set me up. That's crap, Jim Poppin. You never know what I'm going to say. And I just did that on the show.
He's so on top of everything.
Good thing
That's
got a sense of humor.
I'll explain it. There's a reason why it's a little more expensive than some fast food chains is because of the quality. You're getting better food overall, and it's worth it 100%.
You get more food at Culver's too.
Oh yeah, more food, better tasting, better quality.
More food and anything in the category, you're getting a lot more. Like I've never left Culver's needing more food or feeling like I should have ordered more. So yeah, that math does add up.
It is a Wisconsin-based chain, and if anything, Wisconsin people are not known for being lax on the food intake. So it's kind of in line.
That.
Greasy bunch of cheese. It's a Wisconsin burger chain, but we are sponsored by Culver's of Brookings and Watertown, and that's why Jim was asking. Yeah, but. Yeah, Culver's, Brookings, Watertown, the place to go. Better brand of V-Pix, Butterburger, better. As we said, Culver's is worth any price that your body may pay, as endorsed by Stone Labanowitz himself. It's Culver's, Brookings, Watertown. They are a show sponsor. Thank you to Culver's for sponsoring the show for 3 years now. So yeah, thanks to those guys.
While we're doing endorsements, Stone, why don't you talk a little bit about the Alex's Lemonade Challenge? Chad has the standings up here. I don't know about you guys, but I enjoy your interviews each week with all the players. They give really cool insights, and it's really cool to hear what they got going on in their lives. But yeah, tell us a little bit about this initiative.
Yeah, I really don't know where to start, to be honest, and I do appreciate that you guys listen and enjoy those athlete interviews, because I mean I talk about this not only on our show, but anytime I'm doing a hit and interview, whatever the case is, I talk about how the FCS isn't covered to the degree of the FBS. Now that's obvious, right? Like we know that. Like we're doing a better job than hired media and covering the FCS landscape. But even I think it trickles down to the social media aspect and teams not paying for a social media team. And for the FCS and these fans, you don't get a chance to learn who these athletes are underneath the helmet and behind the face mask. So if the platform once a week can be that, getting to learn about 11 nasty athletes. Like they're not just athletes. If you were to close your eyes and pick or a name on a roster that seems popular in the town, like these are like legitimately handpicked. You can go down this list and it makes sense. You have a guy like Mark, who arguably will go down as one of the greatest players to strap it up in the FCS. You have a David Walker, who I'm telling you right now won't last till day 2 in the draft. You have an Evan DiMaggio, the great nephew of Mr. DiMaggio himself, and I could sit here and rattle off who these people are. And Chris Presto, somebody who's been affected by cancer and has family members affected by cancer, giving them a platform, all 11 of them, to speak about it, to help try to raise money and awareness. It's ridiculous. And the fact that we've tailored this thing to the fans and let them kind of take charge in raising this, like this is what it's all about. Like we're all trying to compete. You guys compete, whether it's watching a box score, sitting on your couch watching a football game, or racing your kid up the stairs. And for college athletes, competing in Division I football games, that's what we try to do. So getting the fans involved, it's been phenomenal. You guys have carried massive weight for this thing. I mean, when you look at Mark Gronowski is going to end this thing well over what we thought was accomplishable or what was even doable for many of these athletes. And it's all in good and organic faith in nature. And Northwestern Mutual has just been the coolest to work with. And Chris Schenkel, who spearheads this thing, has really attacked this thing head on and not said no to anything and just wants to do more and more. And I think because this is year 2 and we've already surpassed that $50,000 mark last year, and we're going to try to double that this year and keep it going. I mean, it's ridiculous what's been going on, and I can't thank you guys enough for as well. And Mark's just getting started.
Speaking of competition, the guy in second place is from Southern Illinois, Chris Presto. I figured if anybody, you could get the folks over in Carbondale riled up and get a little competition going there.
I haven't. I mean, $3,500. I haven't. I mean, listen. So sometimes there's I hesitate saying this because you're on open ground, but there's strategy to this, right? Like there are ebbs and flows in the season. We need to, we're coming off a huge win this season, and a huge win means big money. And I mean, I think there's things to come for Chris Presto's number and what he has up his sleeve. So if I were you guys, I wouldn't be smiling too much. I wouldn't be feeling too comfortable. I wouldn't think this is all fun and games. I mean, it is a competition, and to think that I don't have something planned is the stupidest thing you guys could possibly do. So I don't know. If I'm sitting in the blind spot, if Chris Presto's sitting in the blind spot at $3,500, I like that. I do.
Now, you guys did an event there, right? You
Yes.
did an event in Carbondale. And yeah, maybe just talk about that a little bit if you would, just real briefly what you did.
It was the coolest thing that I've done on that campus since I went to school there. I mean, excluding winning football games, I suppose. And I mean, it trumps anything that I've been a part of since being in the city of Carbondale. Just the amount of faces that I saw, the hundreds, if not thousands of people who just made their way through because whether they knew we were there or saw what was going on. And I mean, you guys are around alumni every weekend. For them to get together and also be behind the cause, and for us to have the opportunity to meet Chris Presto's parents and meet people who worked in that St. Louis, in that Clayton Northwestern Mutual office, who have been a part of this thing all season long up until the point, and to watch the kids also be curious and to see what's going on and then learn who I am and who Chris is and who some of the other players that were with me are. So here's what I'll say, and here's what I always say. It doesn't exist in the FCS. This does not exist. An NIL partnership like this based off of something like raising awareness money for childhood cancer. It doesn't exist in the FCS, and we all take a lot of pride in that. Something you see in the FBS and with kids that you know, but for us to kind of give these kids a platform to go out and shine and do something so cool that they'll remember for the rest of their lives, it's pretty badass stuff.
Agreed.
And you know what, on Ron's comment, because I lost the bet, I had to donate $50. I didn't, and he said to whatever cause I thought was best. I didn't feel like it would be fair if I put the $50 to Mark's campaign as much as I'd like to. So I gave it to David Walker for Central Arkansas. And hey, you know what? That kickstarted him. Now he's got now he's up to $110. So let's start. So yes, I do like those $50 donations, Ron. I'm more than happy to that happened. Everybody's off of the zero now, and it's all rolling forward. So that's great. And Stone, you're right. $3,500 is nothing to sneeze at.
No.
We'll be looking over our shoulder at you. We know you're pinging on us once a week here. Hey, what do you guys got going on? What do you guys got going on? Yeah.
What's the update over there, guys? How are things going? What'd you do this weekend? Every week.
Yeah. So no, but yeah. No, it is an awesome thing. It's really cool. We're up to over the $5,000 mark, so there will be $1,000 donated by Northwestern Mutual to Mark's campaign, which is awesome. With that extra $1,000, I don't know. I'm going to put you on the spot here, Stone. I should have probably asked ahead of time, but is that going to be put in as this campaign goes along, or does it get put in at the end? And
no, it'll be put in as soon as possible. I mean, we're fully green to talk about that. I think it's awesome. And I think for fans of other teams that are listening out there who are kind of close, if there are Southern Illinois fans that are kind of close, once any athlete reaches that $5,000 mark, Northwestern Mutual then tacks on another $1,000 on tap, just out of good faith and kind of acknowledgement that $5,000 has been raised by fans of an athlete in a team, and that's not an easy thing to do. So Mark he'll by next week be sitting at that $6,000 mark, if not more.
Yep. And and then my follow-up question on that, because it's $1,000 from Northwestern Mutual, because I know you said it's every $5,000 is $1,000 kicker. Does that mean that once he gets to $10,000, it's another $1,000, or do we have to get to $11,000 because $1,000 of it's from Northwestern Mutual?
It's a really good question, but another $1,000 will be tacked on top. Yes, it does continue. It's not just that $5,000 mark, so it's every $5,000.
Perfect.
Nice.
Cool. We need to find a way to get Pat McAfee and Adam Vinatieri in on this, because Aiden Bowman has his daddy's
great idea.
NFL connections, and that really came back to haunt us at the end of the season. So we got to get
I was wondering if you
having three athletes.
I was wondering if you've given a call to like Jeremy Chin or Michael Pruitt to see what those guys are up to, if they want to contribute.
So it's tricky because think about these NFL teams and the partnerships they have, right? And the contracts they have with children's hospitals, right? And cancer foundations, that they're obligated to not do anything else. Right? They can't get outside the borders of what they do. So that's been a tricky spot for us. But when you look at, so that's kind of blocked off some of the former athletes and what we're able to do in that spot. And it makes all the sense in the world. I mean, when October comes around, I mean, look at how much these athletes do for breast cancer awareness and whatnot. But I think like the Robin Roberts on the Today Show is Southeastern Louisiana grad. Like when you can go school to school and find some of those big hitters, those big names that went on to do awesome things and make millions and billions of dollars. A lot of them graduated from FCS schools. So, I mean, this would be my kind of call out for all of us to go do research and see who went to one of those schools on the list. And is it worth a DM, an email, a call or something, just trying to get them involved. And Pat McAfee, every single week on his show, I think this has been a trend that I've noticed. Something FCS is put on his show, whether it's a highlight, whether it's a bad beat, whether it's a pancake block or a hit stick. Like Pat McAfee shows love to the FCS all the time, more than anybody nationally. So if there's anybody to really kind of just fire away at this thing and give it a shout, it would be Pat probably.
Corey here has a good idea for you.
I could on the Pat McAfee thing before we jump onto Stone's feet picks. I do feel 100% confident I could hit a 35-yarder in his challenge. I could hit a 35-yarder.
That would be what we would have to base it around. Are you actually confident though?
Yes. Yeah, I was a kicker in high school.
I know you're confident in your quarterbacking.
Yeah,
quarterbacking skills.
No rush in my face, no snap. Yeah,
I believe it. Brandon. I believe it. You could toe poke it with a pair of steel toes.
Oh, I was a toe basher, big time.
Exactly. You're totally a toe basher. I knew that without even thinking.
Not a lot of soccer in northern Wisconsin. We were just toe bashing up there, man. There was none of that.
I want to know who signed in, whoever was buying my feet picks that knew about that and signed in whatever name and just said that. They've been making me a killing. The calluses, like on the heel and the big toe, the bulbous one that sticks out when you're really active and in the gym, lifting weights and everything. Yeah,
it makes you stand out from the other feet pick people. That's what
Speaking of your feet, and I know you're not unconfident in your skills as a quarterback, but how do you think you could compare to Mark's punt this last Saturday?
That crap's electric, man. That is some of my favorite stuff to watch. And in retrospect or watching the clip, it's like the funniest thing ever. A defense, you got some what it speaks to how stupid defensive players are, right? Because we all watch on Sundays and Saturdays. I mean, this is people are gonna be like, oh my God, I know. And I know it sounds stupid. This is not stupid. Like you could tell like the brain capacity of a D lineman when a ball's thrown into the dirt or the whistle's blown dead and you watch them 260 pounds sprint to it and dive on it on the ground like a scoop and score. And in college, if you're on the ground, the play's over. So they're going to scoop it up and think they can take it to the house. Or you watch it in the NFL, guys think they got a chance for some TV time or the ball, fumble, and you're getting it. So you watch things like that happen all the time. So, I mean, that would be what I would compare it to be honest.
I love it. Chad, did you have some pictures you want to show?
Oh yeah, just the big stone dog. You know, we're talking about my flow. We're just running through your Instagram here. And
go back to the. Hold on. Go back to the first one. Go back to the first one. This is one of my favorite shots, right? Because the angle, it's an undershot. I don't know where you guys are at with bald spots, but I'm really starting to develop one if I don't shave my head. And I go outside and it's really embarrassing that I see pictures and I'm only 26. But this one, right, no idea there's a bald spot there. Can't really see the hairline or like the widow's peak at the front. So I like a good side shot here with scruff. This is definitely one of my go-tos here. I would put it on Tinder if I had a Tinder.
I thought this was a good shot. You said where did you say? But oh no, it was on Twitter that the lady likes your baldness more than your flow, right? So.
She does. That's something that I've taken away, and I think all guys with long hair should consider.
You got a man bun, or is that the guy's beard behind you?
Both, actually. I do have a man bun, and it is running into his beard. Apparently, there he's copping a feel down there on media day. I don't know why they didn't crop out the socks and slides. They told me they were going to do that.
It's because you're the Salukis, man.
And look, I'm young, right? So I'm really tiny. So the pants don't even fit and I'm rolling them up. Now that's lettuce right there.
Well, but what about the peach fuzz that you got going on? I like that.
That's the first time I've noticed the peach fuzz actually right there. That is a pair of stolen Beats. I remember those. And a cold game. I think Missouri, is that Missouri State? That stadium's too big for Missouri State.
Plaster. Doesn't it? Yeah, I think that's Plaster.
That might be Vaught Hemingway. I don't know.
And I'm only sharing this even though it's a young picture of you because you shared it previously. It's a good look.
This kid was a problem. This kid was a problem right here. This is like this right there. When I see that shot, it is that kid would put Adam Bach flat on his back if he saw him, even at that age. That is exactly what he's telling me right there, number 5. I wore no socks that game, no undershirt that game.
Must not have been 45 degrees.
It was a chilly 65 out. He's
probably like 80. Probably like 80.
Speaking of sock, do you have a sock lookie yourself? Like, if I was a SIU fan, I would have sock lookies.
Yeah, make one
for sure.
I don't have a sock lookie. I don't.
I feel like you need one.
Probably bad. I have a Jeremy Chin bobblehead. I have plenty of polo tees, plenty of tracksuit jumpsuits that don't fit me anymore. No sock lookie though. I could make one. I could. This is game week. This is South Dakota State. Let's go do it, guys. Let's cover this 30 and a half. This is the sock lookie week.
I want a live stream of Stone watching the game, but he's got the game on mute, so he's announcing it with the sock lookie on his hand. That's announcing it.
We could get that view count up to like 10.
I would have that
double
on
this podcast, oddly enough.
I love it. What else do we want to talk about? I did want to get your take on, if you've got one, on the Mountain West smoke with NDSU apparently drawing some interest from Mountain West. And we mentioned SIU expansion earlier. I didn't know, is that talked about in the SDSU or in the SIU circles in terms of FBS possibilities or anything?
No, definitely not for SIU, not where they're at currently. I mean, I think if their basketball team was where it needed to be and where it kind of once was, sure, conversation could be had, right, if it was going to be a tandem thing. But I think for North Dakota State, wow, it's a very loaded conversation. I don't want to get in trouble or say anything stupid with my actual thoughts about it. But I think one thing that I will say that kind of makes other things obvious, I think, for FCS fans is I know this to be a fact. There's a factual statement here. South Dakota State is the only school in the football championship subdivision that generates revenue from their football team. The only school in the FCS. I dare you to fact check me. So I think for other schools, that's kind of where the conversation starts, right? And you really have no rebuttal for. Like North Dakota State probably sees with what we've done in the FCS, the history that we're going to bring and the buzz that we'll bring to a Boise State, any Mountain West, a Colorado State. Like if they went and had a really good season, if we're talking JMU stuff, like right out the gates, like the place would sell out. It'd be a fun place to go to. I shouldn't have said that. It wouldn't be a fun place to go to. It's an awful place to go to. But it'd be, if the team was 9-2 or playing really well or undefeated, like, yeah, I mean, you could eventually build something massive around that would be there to stay in the FCS. So I think that's kind of where those conversations start behind closed doors with like older white guys who make those decisions. Is we can make money doing this. I don't think any of those football players give a damn if they're FBS or FCS. I mean, I know they don't. Like, it's not something that we consider. And I think I have this conversation about Mark Gronowski all the time. And when we had this Northwestern chatter, like, stay and do something that will never be forgotten. And for Mark, he's doing that as we speak right now. Like, he has an opportunity to be remembered by an entire state for being an awesome football player and an awesome kid. And it's probably the rarest of the rare in the FCS. And I think if you're in North Dakota State and you go over there and flop, everything that you've built and every bit of that reputation that you have goes burning down in flames. We're going to see it with the Delaware Hens. We're going to see it with some of these teams that have competed. Jesus Lord, Kennesaw State, let Kennesaw State be the prime example of what could go wrong. I mean, their forecast 5 to 10 years from now is everything's in the red. Like, you're not going to have done anything properly and not reaped any benefits of this. And that is a group of the old white guys who screwed that up, who make those decisions. I think for the FCS, stay, be North Dakota State. But if the real decisions makers see that they can make money in this process and that it can benefit the school and the other sports through all of the Title IXs and that laundry list of things that would benefit from a good TV contract and whatnot, yeah, sure, go do it. But here's the most important thing: the players could give two shits about them being in the FBS or the FCS. So that's kind of what I think it comes down to, at least if you're asking me. But money's money. If you got it on the table, go get it.
So since you brought up that the Fargo Dome's an awful place to play, what was your favorite road game in the Valley? Road stadium, not road game, not a single game, but like place to go and play. We know we're last because you froze your balls off here every time.
Ooh, favorite place to play in the Valley.
Couldn't have been the Dome in Vermilion. That place is a shithole. Sorry. They made it better now. To be fair,
I mean, God. Sometimes I stop myself, but I'm gonna not stop myself and say it. I think I'm not lying to you here. I think it was Indiana State. Okay, because I had come from a junior college and we had to bus to a field to even practice or play, and I remember getting to Division I school. I'm a scholarship football player. I freaking did it. Let's go. I'm on the road trip as a freshman. I'm calling signals for a fifth-year senior. This is freaking awesome. Week 2 or week 3, we take a trip to Indiana State. And I remember getting off the bus being so pissed off and scared about where I was attending school and what the hell was happening. Because I was like, there's no shot. There's no shot. This is where a Division I football team plays. Like, there's no way. The windscreens were there, like the painting was the backdrop, or the windscreens of like trees, because the ones behind them were dead, and it was vast land over here, and there was this solid 1,200 people. It was like, holy cow! Like, and then I've come to love it. Like, I think it's just because of what it is. Like, this is how schools are really getting down in the FCS. Like, SIU's the Taj Mahal. South Dakota State is the Taj Mahal. Facilities, stadiums, all those things. I think they're the cream of the crop in the FBS. But I remember being so shook when I got to Indiana State and was warming up that this is where I was at in my life. So it stuck with me forever. Probably playing in the trees, the fake trees. I don't know if you guys know what I'm talking about, but the windscreens are like blue, and they surround the track. And I'm like, is that their backdrop? We're like trying to make it look better, and like it was like throwing a blanket over a dead body. So Indiana State, for sure.
It's not the answer I expected at all.
Me either. It's
most state was big. Most state was big. Most state was like the concrete bleachers. I think are really cool in college. So most state is my real answer.
That's fair. Plaster. Yeah, I'm going there for the first time this year, so I'm looking forward to checking that place out. I managed to swing by Youngstown in the off season, and it's a lot cooler in person than it is on TV. I'll tell you that much, because in person it's pretty dope. You see it on TV, it's like prison. Like, what is this place?
Right. It's really great.
Yeah.
It's like they ran out of funds to build the second side, but I guess they just don't need it.
So as we're going along here, I got to get to our other sponsor. Of course, we talked about Alex's lemonade stand with Northwestern Mutual and everything, but we got to talk about Cubby's Sports Bar and Grill in Brookings, South Dakota, downtown on Main Street in Brookings. They are the place for anything Jackrabbits. They just hosted the selection show for their soccer team, who's going to be playing Minnesota in the first round of the NCAA tournament. Let's go get the volleyball team there next, hopefully. Cubby Sports Bar and Grill, they got great food, burgers, Chislick beer, everything you want. Cubby's has it. Roughly 40,000 square inches of TVs. Nobody can fact check me on that one. Somebody had to say, "Oh, there's not 300 TVs in there. There's, whatever." But it feels like 300 of them. Go down to Covey Sports Bar and Grill. They're the place to go. We are honored to have them as a sponsor of the show. That's all I got for Covey's. I usually end that better, but I just it was terrible. But we probably should talk a little about the game that happened last week, right? A little bit.
Speaking of Cubbies, though, before you go on, they're hosting Mark's Alex's Lemonade Stand.
Yes. Oh my God, how did I forget that?
There you go.
I was working on pulling it up.
See, that's why I wasn't able to finish. I knew subconsciously there was something left unsaid there. Yeah, Thursday at Cubby Sports Bar and Grill. It is, I believe, 6:30. Yeah, it's right on there. 6:30 till 8. So
Mark, I believe he said he's not leaving Cubby's until they bring back Italian nachos.
Nice.
I think he said that. Yeah.
Yeah, I heard that. That is a scientific fact.
Ryan, can you fact check that for us, or Deb?
No, you don't need to fact check it. You don't need to fact check it. We just need you to back us up on it. There's a difference.
There you go.
You don't need a fact check. I was told that we weren't getting fact checked. Great way to spend your night. Go down, meet Mark. Great cause. Head down there and see Mark before you go watch Scared Money Don't Make Money. I mean, I can't think of a better night. Pre-gaming at Cubbies for Scared Money Don't Make Money sounds like the best way to spend your night possible to me.
It is a great night. We'll quickly talk about the game that happened last week against UND. I don't know, maybe we can get Stone out of here. Stone, do you want to?
Jeez,
do you want to
get him out of here?
That would be.
Kick him out.
I'm just saying.
I would expect it no other way with you guys. This is how I would want to go. I would want to be picked up by the back of my shirt and my belt loop, and Chad just throw me out the front. That's how I would want to do it.
The whole hour. Get him out of here. Why is he still here? Jesus.
I'm being nice.
Seriously, I thank you guys.
Thanks for your time,
show
for sure.
Each and every week. The best fan base in all of the FCS. There's no denying it, and you guys lead the way with that. So anytime I get a chance to come on here and shoot the ish and talk about some of the cool things we're doing with Alex's and a team that's on a quest for back-to-back national champions, yeah, I'm in any day of the week. Appreciate you guys.
Before you go, give us one Kevin imitation.
Give us one what?
Kevin imitation.
Ooh, okay, cool. Let me make this good real quick, actually. Let me make this good. Let me make this worth your freaking time. I'll keep the profanity out of here.
You don't have to.
Okay.
Unless you want to.
I may be talking. I may be talking about a girl or something, and he'll get. See, I don't really have those problems, Stone. I got a dicky do. It means my stomach stick out more than my dicky do. So I don't really have a problem. I can't do a good country accent. So that was like a Italian Chinese guy.
He talks kind of slow too.
Yeah. So hold on. One more crack at it. Actually, I'll give you a peek behind the curtain. I hope freaking Kev's listening right now. I'll give you a peek behind the curtain. We record the show early sometimes. Some of my favorite shit ever, I swear. This is like my endorphin dosage I need every single week. Kev will be trying to hit one of his zingers that you guys hear every week. Mind you, I'm in charge of production, right? So I handle all the editing. He'll be trying to hit one of his zingers. He'll tee that bitch up, and he'll screw it up. And he gets so pissed. So it might be like he's gonna kill me. Actually, I'm scared. My phone died. I just watched it die, so I'm not gonna plug it in. He'll be like, you talk about this team ripping off 6 in a row? I mean, this team's hotter than a June bug feather and a needle in a haystack. Shit, hold on, rewrite. This team's yeah, Stone. So you talk about this team's hotter than a June bug in a haystack. Shit. This team's and then he'll nail it, and then we'll pause. And I'm like, we're good. He's like, yeah, we're good. And we just roll on through. And I'm like, this is like the best stuff ever. Like, it's because he's a complete legend, and he'll tee them things up. And then his take after that is obviously phenomenal. But it's some of my favorite stuff because he knows that it's what he knows that's the Kevin Marshall way, and you got to do it the only way you know. So, I mean, I don't do a good country accent, so I'm not doing him justice, but those would be my cracks at it.
That was
fantastic. I appreciate it. If people want to hear you and Kevin, FCS Nation Radio, you guys put out your show every Friday. It's always a good listen heading into the weekend. So check that out. And once again, we appreciate you being on. Thank you so much.
I appreciate you guys. Yes, best of Kevin Marshall. Oh my God, it's on its way. Peace out, guys.
Thanks, Stone. Oh,
All
that's
right, the
good
great
stuff.
Stone Labanowitz. That was good stuff. That was really good stuff.
Now that we're an hour in, let's
Yeah.
quickly recap the SDSU win at UND, which if you look at how UND's been playing, you think, well, of course. But you look at the historical context of how they've played in the Alara Center against Missouri Valley teams. In the past, I don't know how many years it was. They've only lost like twice to Missouri Valley teams. Or is it since they've been in D1? They've only lost twice to Missouri Valley teams. Is that what it is?
Before 3 times, I believe.
This is the 3rd time, I think.
No, it was 3 times before.
Okay, this is the 4th time
on the hair raisers. But
yeah. Anyway, it as we talked about a bunch of times going into it, not an easy place to play, and especially not not an easy place to go win like we did. Zach McKinnell says, no need to recap. UND bad, SDSU good. Enough said.
All I can think of is the old Metallica thing from Napster. Napster bad. Sorry. That's probably a little old for some of the people out there,
but no, I think that we saw, for those that have been yearning for the passing game to click, I think we saw that. I think we saw Mark and his receivers get into a little bit of a rhythm. After, I think it was his earliest D ball, he missed on a little bit, could have placed it a little better. And then after that, it was just dime after dime after dime. And he was just carving up UND's defense. So that was really fun to see. I think it's something that, we've been waiting to see and thinking, man, we better get this going before the playoffs. And so it's huge to see him have that success and to know that, it's getting there. The rhythm is coming, and that I think we can expect to see it a lot more going forward. I'm guessing.
Yeah, I think there is something to vibes, right, of a team, and you can feel the vibes of this team going when you go into a place like that where historically it's never been a cakewalk there during this run that we've been on. That won handily, but it wasn't easy. That game was easy. That game was dominated. This really just the passing game clicking, the way the run game looked, the defense. Yeah, there was one missed tackle for that game, a touchdown, and the first drive was a little shaky and completely locked them down after that. This really gives me the vibes of a team that is gelling to go on a run. That is the feeling you get from it. And obviously we look for that to continue going forwards, but I think if you're any team in the rest of the bracket, this is the last thing you want to see, is this team really starting to click and hit on all cylinders. And if you listen to the coach, the presser for Jimmy, he said, I think it was Borg who mentioned, how's it for the players, gelling after replacing, the greatest team possible, that for sure in SDSU history of all time, possibly and definitely one of the greats in FCS history, assuming that mantle. And Jimmy said, well, they still can be the greatest, of all time. They're still, they can still get there holistically. If you look at the season, obviously not, but if they get clicking and get rolling, it's not impossible. You see the pass game really start to take off, and then who knows? And I'm not claiming this will be the best team at all. I'm pointing out that the more this team gets rolling and rolling as the season goes on, and as we've seen them progress, they've just been getting better and better all season, and it really should excite you as a Jacks fan.
Yeah, I like Darren said here, we're getting better every week, 100%. And you knew that was going to happen. We tried to talk about it. It's easy to just get frustrated and say, man, they should be playing better. But, we talked about all the new pieces the offense had, and knew that it was going to get better as the year went on. And we've seen that. It's looking really good. Carter mentioned UND was pretty chippy. Yes, they were.
Yes,
they man, and I think you'll see that against teams like SDSU, and I think that we did that against NDSU when they were on the run that they had. That you go into a game like that and you got to bring something extra. You got to try to punch them in the mouth. You got to get them to try to react and get some penalties, and that's what UND was doing. And I think for the most part our guys won the response, and that was really good to see.
Yeah, they showed a lot of emotion, UND did, in that game, and you could tell the chippiness got worse as it went, because I think the realization that their season was rapidly slipping through their fingers was coming upon them, and there was nothing they could do about it, and there's only one way to vent that emotion. It's either between the whistles or after it, and they had already been after the whistles a little bit, trying to play up for this game anyways, and it just kind of compounded on itself a little bit on them.
For sure. Seth Meyer says this year's defense might be better than last year. I don't know, man. Possibly. They're really, really good. The way that, they were a one missed tackle away from pitching a shutout at UND. And it seems like every week you're just thinking, man, I'd be surprised if a team scores more than 10 on us. And if you have a defense that's that good, you got to feel good about winning ball games. And, you hear the old adage all the time, defense wins championships. It's true. And that's what this team has. And we said it from early in the season. We've said that this team has a championship level defense, and I think they continue to prove it. And I think they're getting better too. I think you had some young guys and some transfers that are starting to get really confident, and some guys back from injury, and they're looking really, really good. No doubt. Jordan says, excited for Ogroski to keep developing. Him and Wilde could be a dangerous 1-2 punch. Yeah, for sure. Ogroski looks good. He's definitely a good route runner, gets a lot of separation, it seems like. And yeah, excited to see where that goes. Matthew Kroll says the healthier the Hogs get, the better the whole offense works. For sure. The Hogs are playing really, really, really well right now.
Just for the record, it's going to be really, really hard to be better than the scoring defense was last year at 9.3 points per game. That is an absurd amount of points per game.
Yeah,
right now we are at 13. That is over a field goal. That is a crazy number. Under double digits per game is Looney Tunes. We need a bunch more shutouts.
13, so we're at 130. We got 2 games left. Yeah, teams that have to average 7 or less probably to match that number for the rest of the season. Yeah. And through the playoffs would be just unreal. You can't the performances that the team last year put up in the playoffs was just insane.
Historic.
It was unreal.
Yes.
Yeah, well, that's true. After giving up 68 points in the first 2 games, if you take those 2 out, the average is very low. What are we at? 130. So it's only.
Come on, engineer, do the math. Quick math.
It's only 60 points over like 8 games, so you're under 10.
62.
Well, I said like 60, so. I didn't know if it's exactly 130 or what, but anyway.
It's going to be close.
I thought you were Mr. Exact.
Okay, now I'm going to look it up. Yeah, it's exactly 130 points. So there. Ha, ha, ha. 130 and a half points. Somehow we gave up a half point somewhere, Ben.
What? That's weird. Chad's got the Missouri Valley standings up here. NDSU and Missouri State tied atop at 6-0. SDSU and USD at 5-1, Illinois State 4-2, Indiana State 3-3, UND 2-4, Youngstown State 2-5, Southern Illinois 1-5, and then a bunch of no-win Missouri Valley teams in Northern Iowa, and Murray State. I guess on a bunch, just 2. And then we'll look at the rankings quick, or the stats poll. NDSU at the top, Montana State, SDSU 3, UC Davis 4, and USD 5. For Valley teams, we've got also Illinois State at 17. And then I believe UND probably dropped out at this point. Yeah, it's only sitting at 4 in the top.
They're still receiving votes in one of the polls, which is just stupid.
Yep. They
So
show
dumb.
receiving votes.
I don't know. I mean, you hate to drop a team too much after losing to SDSU, but
Yeah, but they also lost to Indiana State and Youngstown State.
yeah, there's that.
And to go off on a bit of a tangent here, what drives me nuts is, the FCS, you want to have engagement, you want to have all this stuff. And if anybody hasn't listened yet, Sam Herder put out a podcast last week with a guy from the NCAA and Matt Larson, who's the head of the playoff committee. And they talked to those guys, and they talked about the reasons they're not using the media poll anymore and all that stuff. And as they talk, as was pointed out to me by Sam Herder, is last year, they kind of mentioned too, they have their own top 25 on the committee. Why can this not be released like starting week 6 and then just release it? And then maybe twice a year have the commissioner come out and talk about it. I mean, he already jumped on multiple podcasts and multiple interviews after they do the one release. You want conversation. You want people to be interested. You want engagement from the fans. Release the committee's poll frequently. Just release it once a week. That would be huge. And let teams know where they truly stand. Why can't we do that? It's just insane. Anyways, I don't know why that's been stuck in my head all day, but I had to get that off my chest. It drives me nuts.
I agree that they should release their poll, and I also agree that the stats poll should be more transparent. If that's not evident enough at this point, I don't know what else you need, but I would think that would be the straw that breaks that camel's back and actually bring some transparency to that poll a little bit and some legitimacy, really. I mean, because it could be if they had it completely transparent, it could be the FCS poll that I think, everybody would undoubtedly say, yeah, this is the one we look at for all the rankings. And the playoff committee would probably be like, oh yeah, this is reliable because we see who's voting and we see that they pay attention and that, gets vetted out every week. So I don't know. We'll see where it goes.
Yeah. It's crazy to me that the argument from Craig Haley is, well, these guys shouldn't have to deal with all the crap I deal with when I put my poll out there. Well, it's because you're an arrogant prick about it, first off. And second off, if, Joe Schmo fan is willing to put his poll out there and take grief from the same amount of people on message boards, Twitter, across the country, everywhere, and they'll stand up for their poll, you should have the backbone to stand up for your damn poll if it's the one that is supposed to matter. And if you're not willing to do that, you don't get to vote anymore because you obviously don't care enough to put any extra time into it in the first place.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. If you're not confident enough in your poll to defend it, then apparently you don't spend enough time on it. Then just don't vote in your own poll. That's fine. There are plenty of other people who do spend enough time on it to vote on it and defend their votes or defend their poll.
Yeah. I mean, it's not that hard. Spend extra time on your poll, guys.
Exactly. With that, we're almost an hour 15 into this thing. Right, your representatives.
Well, okay. Here's the last one. I'll answer this for Damien, and I think Damien's asked something similar on the Borg show. If USD wins out, is there a metric that can be used to determine the ranking between USD, SDSU, and NDSU? Something like point differential. It first off, there is something like that for the auto bid, but I think realistically, when you are SDSU, USD, or NDSU, you don't care about the auto bid. It will go down as a tied conference championship, and whether you get the auto bid or not, it doesn't matter. If you want to compare and you want a metric to compare, and you look at the resume of the teams, and I think Sam Herder just posted an article with the resume of all the teams in the running for the top 8 on Hero Sports here this week. NDSU will have, and Zach McKinnell and Tim Rosario talked about it on their podcast this week extensively as well. Realistically, no matter what happens, if USD wins, SDSU will have the middle resume. NDSU will have the top because Tennessee State's end up being ranked. East Tennessee State has ended up being ranked. Plus, they end up with having 7 ranked wins on their resume compared to us, who would have 3 or 4, and then USD would only have like 1, I think, and that'd be the one over NDSU. So the pecking order based off of resume would go that way: NDSU, SDSU, USD. And if you want to hunt and hunt and hunt until you find one that makes us on top, so you feel good about it, I mean, you can. But I mean, brass tacks, that's kind of the way it looks. Yes, and way back in week 3 does matter. You are comparing the whole season. It is your whole season's resume getting compared. It is what it is.
I love it because they'll cry about that.
Oh yeah,
so much.
And honestly, inside, if I take the USD part out of it, it makes me a little sick to my stomach that the team wins against the team that it's not like there's a huge gap between them rankings wise, but they'll beat them. Or if they beat them, they won't jump them. Like, I don't see any way they jump NDSU. And besides stopping USD from possibly dropping out of the top 8 seeds, that's all it does for them. So that's the only thing that meant anything in that game to them, was being able to stay in the top 8 seeds, probably get to 5 seed, and that'd be it. And that's just hilarious.
The only reason it would happen is if they just absolutely blow the doors off of them, and they.
Right.
They can make the claim that, hey, we're obviously the best team in the country, but
right.
I don't know.
Odds are low.
I agree. With that, I think we need to get going here.
Well, Carter, if UC Davis beats MSU, we would not be the 2 seed. UC Davis would be the 2 seed. They'd be undefeated against FCS, and they'd have just beaten Montana State. We'll still be the 3 or 4.
Yep, we needed to win in Fargo.
Yeah, and that's okay. I want everybody to remember, you don't have to be the 1 seed to make it to the national title game. If you go through NDSU's run, at least half of them, they were not a 2 seed. They've been the 3 seed, the 4 seed, had key up that, yes, they always played at home. Key upsets happened along the way, so they ended up playing at home, all that stuff. You don't have to be the 1 seed to make it to the national title game.
Right. And I mean, that's the thing. Like, what they have had happen in the past is they might end up being the 3 seed or the 4 seed, and then the 1 or the 2 seed loses, and then they still get a home game out of it anyway. And that's very possible.
That's the true Bison Horseshoe, because they've always had that happen.
Oh yeah.
Always.
And so we could be the 3 seed, and the 2 seed still has to win 2 games before we would have to go there, and they could trip up, and who knows what's going to happen. But anyway, we'll get into all that fun playoff talk probably a little more after next week. And yeah, tune in on Thursday night for Scared Money Don't Make Money. With that, as Jim says, as we always say, go big, go blue, go Jags.
Go Jags.
Jags.